Hey everyone, welcome back to the franchise. I know today I'm back in the house, back on the couch. Normally, we're in the recording studio, but there's just been a conflict of schedules this week. No big deal. And today I'm coming here talking to you from my couch, like it was back in the past year. So to start things off, I know again this just feels different now from what it used to be. Got a nice couple pimples here on my nose, just to point out the obvious. I don't know what's going on. I'm 26, and for some reason this stuff still pops up. But anyways, getting into sports. So I just want to talk about a few things. It's really about the four major sports today. I haven't really gotten to every single team in recent videos or podcasts or whatever, but today I'm going to try my best to get around to everyone. So to start off, I'm going to go with importance, honestly. So to start off with the Red Sox, they got a win last night against the Miami Marlins. It was rained out in the sixth inning, so take that with however you want. But it was good to see them get that win. I mean, they've fallen behind the Rays here. They're a half game back now. They're two up on the Yankees. They're four and a half up on the Blue Jays, and the Orioles are just obviously done. They're the Orioles. So to see them kind of try to figure this out down the stretch, just made the brightness so much better. Awesome. To to try to see them figure this out down the stretch is definitely a plus. I've said multiple times in my videos, it's really like the end of June and like early mid-July that you'll see who's sticking around in the standings and who's legit. They got a really tough schedule coming up. The Red Sox, they're just about to start it, I believe. They got teams that are playing well this year, teams that played well last year that were playoff teams. Obviously, the playoffs were extended last year, but the Red Sox weren't one of those teams to make it into the extended playoffs. So for them to play teams like that, it's going to be a struggle for sure. It's definitely the tough stretch of the schedule, and the end of the year isn't going to be as tough. So if they can make it through this run, the gauntlet, for what people like to say, they should be sitting pretty, honestly. They got the Yankees, Blue Jays a couple times coming up, Rays. It's a lot of in-division teams. So we'll see how they stand up to those teams when those games come around. But for now, they're one of the better teams in baseball. They got one of the better records in baseball. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. They sent down Franchy Cordero, so the Andrew Benintendi deal isn't looking amazing right now. Probably should have just kept him, and they need bullpen help still. I mentioned it before. They really do need more bullpen help. They've needed more bullpen help for a while. I have it, just written everywhere. So hopefully they can figure that situation out. You don't need to go and get like the best reliever in baseball or whatever. It just get a couple guys that can really help out, because some of these young guys and some of these not so great vets that are on the team right now in the bullpen, even in the starting rotation a little bit, they're just not going to cut it for like the long run if you're really trying to win a World Series this year, which I think it looks like they're trying to do. So yeah, anyways, moving on to the Patriots. Usually don't really have the Patriots up this early in the order, but this is where I have them. There isn't much news. real news to go based off. Obviously, there's OTAs and practices and things like that, and I'm hearing some really good things about Mac Jones. I'm hearing not so great things about Cam Newton, just that he really doesn't look any different. His accuracy, his arm strength, nothing really looks like it's changed from last year, which is tough, but it's just this Julio Jones news. That's what I really want to get to. So Julio Jones, as most people know, if you don't know, he's on the Atlanta Falcons. He's 32 years old, I believe. He went crazy against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, where the Patriots made the greatest comeback in probably sports history, or at least a game. And now it looks like he's on the trade market. He has said that he's out of there in Atlanta when asked. Obviously, I don't think he knew he was being asked on like live TV, but it's out there now. Like, that's just how it is. So Julio Jones wants to be out. The top two places that have been listed are the Tennessee Titans and the New England Patriots. So here's my take on Julio potentially coming to the Pats. I like Julio. I love Julio. He's a great player. He's one of the best receivers ever. He's at his best. He's probably still the best receiver in the NFL when he's fully healthy and playing, and everyone's playing at their best. He's probably the best one. But the thing is, I don't know if it really helps this team. Last year, for sure, I'm saying trade pretty much whatever you can for Julio, because you didn't have the receivers. You just lost Tom Brady, and he probably would have, if he stayed healthy, like I said, he probably adds a couple wins onto the Patriots, and maybe they make the playoffs just with him on this team. Now, fast forward this year, you sign Nelson Aguilar, you sign Kendrick Bourne, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Cam Newton's back. And I know none of those guys are number one options. The tight ends might surprise us. Who knows? Maybe Jonnu. We'll see. That's yet to be seen. But Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne are not number 1 and 2 options. Nelson Aguilar, he was the number 1 receiver on the Las Vegas Raiders last year, but he was still behind Darren Waller as the second option in that passing offense. So, and Kendrick Bourne's like a number 3 receiver, if we're being completely honest here. So Julio would fit. He would become the number 1 receiver, and he would fit right in. But here's where things kind of get interesting and shaky. So Cam Newton's still the quarterback as of right now. And I know Julio said that he wants to play with him. They're friends. They seem to be friends, boys, whatever. They're around the same age, and that's great and all. And the thing is, Julio said he wants to win. I don't necessarily know if that's a thing here now, right? So maybe they make the playoffs this year. I think the Patriots will make the playoffs this year. Between their weak schedule now compared to last year, definitely their weak schedule and the moves that they made, the transactions, the trades, the free agency signings that they made, it just seems that it's all lining up for a nice little run here. But it's still, the quarterback position is the biggest question mark, which is always tough. And like I said, Julio said he wants to play with Cam, but is he going to still be saying that when he gets balls just drilled into the dirt 6 to 8 yards in front of him, you know? I don't know if he's going to be saying the same things when these incomplete passes are just fading away in front of him and these uncatchable balls are coming his way. You know, like, there's only so much he can do with a quarterback that just really can't throw and still apparently can't throw. So I don't know if he's all about the numbers still. People still want their numbers, but Julio's probably on the back end. He is on the back end of his career. He's on the wrong end of 30, and this is the contract he's on now is probably the last major contract he's going to get. With the way the NFL works, he might get like another Darrelle Revis, like 2 years, like 10 mil, maybe something like that from someone just to finish off his career. But this is really it for him. So I don't know, I'm sure he wants to win a Super Bowl. He's tasted almost winning one. And we'll see. I just don't know. I don't know if it makes too much sense, because on the Patriots side of it, it's like, are you really going to give up? What do you have to give up? You really have to give up these assets? I do it personally if it means you're sending back N'Keal Harry and Sony Michel. Just send them, take a couple of picks too, and make it work. I don't want those guys on this team anymore. But if it's going to cost you a first, a couple seconds or something like that, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense for this team, just because we just don't really know what the future holds. And some of these, apparently this draft coming up in 2022 next year is a really deep one. Maybe it's not like quarterback elite, I'm pretty sure, but going into the late rounds, apparently, like, you can just snag some starters. It's just a very deep draft. I haven't taken a really good look at it, and eventually I'll do that. Not anytime soon, but you probably want most of your picks. I think that's why a lot of these teams have kind of stacked up their first round picks and whatnot, and going into next year, the Eagles, the Dolphins, and some other teams. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, if anything happens, I'll make like a video about it, whether it's in the studio or it's here. If it has to be breaking, like, we'll see what happens. Obviously, I did that last year with Cam. So listen, if it's for the right price, I'll gladly take Julio Jones. Even on this team, he probably adds at least one win, the way this season's looking for the Patriots. So go Pats, go Sox. I'm going to move on now. Bruins. The Boston Bruins. So the Bruins are in the second round of the playoffs. They are technically it's the final of their division. So 4 teams in each division this year made it, 1 through 4 seeding. And then the winner of that division goes on to basically the Eastern Conference Finals, and obviously the winner of that goes to the Stanley Cup. So the Bruins have moved on. They beat the Capitals, and the last time I did a video talking about the Bruins, it was kind of outdated. It was about Tuukka in Game 1 and how I didn't like how they looked, and obviously they just came back and won the next 4 games and looked amazing, Tuukka included. Obviously there's a couple soft goals here or there, but that's just Tuukka Rask. And the Bruins just looked completely dominating. They looked like the best team in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So if they can play like that against pretty much anyone, they'll win. Like, that's just how it is. And obviously, it's not going to be like that every night. Some fire got lit under them, and they just took off from there against the Capitals. But from here on out, it's definitely going to be tough. The Islanders, thankfully, in my personal opinion, the Islanders upset the Pittsburgh Penguins. So it's Islanders Bruins, and now the Bruins have home ice. If the Penguins won, they wouldn't have home ice. And I know in hockey, home court advantage, home ice advantage, home field advantage, whatever you want to call it, it's not as important as the other sports, definitely, because anyone can win in hockey, obviously, as we've seen with the Blues a couple years ago against the Bruins in general. But it's still nice to start off on your home ice and have that potential, like, if necessary, Game 7 at home. It just, that's what's nice about this whole thing. So, and I personally would rather play the Islanders than the Penguins. Obviously, there's a reason they're the 4th seed in the division to make the playoffs. They were fighting for the 1 seed at one point. They were there, but they really fell off around the trade deadline this season. And they were one of the teams owning the Bruins for most of the season, along with the New Jersey Devils for some reason. But the Bruins turned it around, and they really gave it to the Islanders, like I said, during that second half of the season. So, it could go either way. Who's going to show? Is it going to the Islanders are going to? Because clearly they're not falling apart anymore. If they were still falling apart, they wouldn't be here right now. The Islanders, they wouldn't have made it to the next round. They wouldn't have beat the Penguins. They didn't even go 7 games, So clearly something has been turned around here. I think there's a goalie switch. Sorokin's in there instead of Varlamov or something crazy like that. But if like I said, the Bruins play the way that they played in the first round against the Capitals from games 2 to what was it, game 2 to 5, they'll win. They'll win. That's just, in my opinion, they'll win. I don't know if they'll sweep or win another 4-1 series, but they'll win. And especially if they play against Islanders like they did in the second half of the season. So it all really depends on which Islanders team is going to show up. Is it going to be the first half Islanders team or the second half Islanders team? So, again, the Bruins look great. The offense looked great. The top line was really getting going. It was great to see, Bergeron. I love Bergeron. Patrice Bergeron does not get the credit that he deserves in this city. Really, it's just because he plays hockey and like hockey's not big. Like he's just, especially if he won a couple more, he's not quite there, but he's almost on Big Papi level. I'm sorry, like he really is. Like he is. Again, if he won a couple more, or if he won at least one more, then you really have that conversation. But he just. Man, he's one of the best. I can't. He the way he represents the city and the heart that he shows on the ice and for this team and how clutch he is. He's got to be one of the most clutch players I've ever seen in any sport. So thank you, Patrice Bergeron. I'm happy Pastrnak has been getting going. Taylor Hall needs to, kind of faded away at the end of the series, but I'm sure, he'll pick it up. And they play tonight. Let me just double check that. Tonight at 8 p.m. So go Bruins, all right? I'll be definitely watching. All right. I hope they can get it done. This is really, the Bruins are really all we really have going currently in Boston. Obviously the Red Sox, they're playing well, but like it's not playoff time. They're not even at the halfway point in the season yet, and the Patriots aren't playing. So the Bruins are all we have right now, because moving on to the next team in the final topics, really, of this, the Celtics. They got a win last night. Great. That's awesome. Tatum looked great. Smart looked great. They're still not winning this series. I'm sorry. Like, that's awesome. And it's going to be great with the fans tomorrow night with the full capacity, volume-wise, booing Kyrie. And I loved that. I loved the booing Kyrie. But the Celtics aren't winning the series. There's not really much I want to talk about on the court when it comes to them. Again, Jalen Brown's not playing. He's out. Robert Williams got hurt again. Tristan Thompson looked great last night. Marcus Smart looked great last night, and Tatum was showing how elite he is last night. But the main story and the main topic I want to get to is with Kyrie Irving. Yet again, making everything about him. So, when the Nets went up 2-0 in the series back in Brooklyn, Kyrie made a comment about hoping, when asked about the crowd reaction to him finally playing in front of everyone, because he, hid when the fans were still here. He just didn't want to play, so he didn't show up. When he did that, the Celtics fans haven't had the opportunity to confront him since then, or to give a reaction from the crowd, since he ran out of the city after promising he'd stay. So, last night, or at least leading up to last night, he made the comments about how he hopes that the Boston fans keep it strictly to basketball and not racism. It doesn't get out of hand with anything else. And of course, I'm not like the media kind of guy, because like I went to school for sports journalism, but I can still see the faults in the way things are handled by people in general, but in this case, the media. And they just fed right into him, his whatever the term is. They ate it up, the sports media, especially in Boston, because it was all they were talking about for the last few days leading up to last night's game. Is Boston racist? Yes, Boston's racist. Like over and over again. And this is my opinion on this. Yes, Boston is a racist city. It is one of the oldest places in the country. And that is not to diminish or belittle the fact that there's there's no excuse. I'm not making an excuse there. That's my reasoning of why it's there. One of the big reasons. It's just, it's systemic. It's implanted into the city, and it's very unfortunate. It's like that in a lot of places, especially on the east side of the United States. Don't think New York and Philadelphia and places like that. Like, don't think that they aren't just as racist just because you don't hear it at sports games, that you have heard it a couple times in Boston. And I'm not defending Boston. The idiot that said racial slurs to Adam Jones a few years ago at a Red Sox game in center field, that was stupid, and it was probably one of the reasons why he made Mookie Betts detest Boston and wanted to leave, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised. Systemic racism is a major problem, and I've done videos about this. I did it a year ago with the George Floyd murder and everything. It is there. But Jalen Brown said something, and I know Marcus Smart fed into it, and other players, Tristan Thompson and Danny Ainge probably didn't give the best answers, but Jalen Brown said it perfectly, and this is why, he's such a great advocate for the city, for African Americans, for everything, civil rights, human rights. Jalen Brown is a smart person. He really is, and I don't think he gets enough credit for stuff like this. I know it was brought up when he went to Atlanta and protested and everything last year, and man, the way he put this last night, before the game, the Celtics released the press conference of Jalen Brown, bringing this up on his own, not being asked about it, before questions were asked. I'm sure he would have gotten asked about it. But he basically said he agrees with Kyrie. He's not wrong, and I'm not saying Kyrie's wrong either. He is right. He's right about what he said. But the time and the place was not right. Kyrie Irving, by saying what he said and when he said it, it seemed like he made the whole he changed the whole narrative of the series and the game. First of all, like Jalen Brown said, you don't want to use that around a playoff game the way it was used. He basically made it about himself, is what I'm trying to get at, Kyrie Irving. And I don't think that's what African Americans or people that are subjected to racism, that are victims of racism, I don't think they want a person to make it singularly about themselves. They can talk about their experiences, of course, and add their stories to everything else that's gone on in history, as Nora makes puking noises over there for some reason. But to make it about yourself, especially when that's everyone in the world, everyone that understands things normally, that goes through their brains, knows that's not the reason why Kyrie was getting booed last night, or would have gotten booed last night. And Kyrie knows it more than anyone else. He just decided that, just like flaking out on the Celtics, he was going to try to change the narrative. Just like when he told the Celtics fans that he wanted to stay if they would have him, and he wanted his number retired in those commercials, and then he bailed on the franchise. That's why Kyrie Irving was getting booed last night, and he'll get booed even more tomorrow night, rightfully so, deservingly so. It makes no sense whatsoever to make it about race. I get it. It's a conversation that should always be had. It should never go away at any time. There's no wrong time to talk about that. But it's the motive of him to say that, the reason he brought it up, that's the problem with it. That's the main reason. There's no point in bringing that up at this time. Again, talk about it whenever you want, and I get, it's never a non-subject. It should always be talked about whenever someone wants to talk about it. But he didn't want to talk about it. Kyrie hasn't talked about it. Why didn't he bring it up when he was here? He played here in Boston for a couple years. Loosely played here because he was always hurt. But it's just like he made that comment, and then we didn't hear anything from him after, as far as I know. So it's like it just seems like he did that to stir the pot and get everyone riled up. It makes no sense of why he said that. And Kyrie Irving isn't, I'm trying not to say things here. Like, he's not a jerk because he's African American or because he's black. He's not a jerk because he's black. He's a jerk because he's Kyrie Irving. That's just the way he is. He could be white. Look at Johnny Damon when he left Boston and went to New York. If Kyrie Irving, Mr. Flat Earther himself, why doesn't he just Google Johnny Damon getting booed at Fenway when his first came back with the Yankees? I'm sure that is, even the boos tomorrow night with a full capacity are going to be nothing compared to that. He did not get booed because he's black. He's not a jerk because he's black. He got booed because he's a jerk that happens to be black. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's just because of the way he did things, the way he did business. It's not because of his skin color. It's not because of the way he thinks or the way he talks or the way he carries himself. Or it's kind of because of the way he carries himself, but that's for different reasons. It's just to make it about that. And I get it. I really do. The long-term conversation, but for this time, at the time and place, he deserves the boos, and it's not for the reasons that he tried making it about. That's just all it is. And I love how rattled he was last night. Clearly, you could see before the game when they were doing shoot around the nets, he's like putting his hands up, like wanting more from the crowd when they're booing at him. And then he comes out and he has a bad game, which was great to see. So did Kemba Walker, unfortunately. That's a different conversation. But if for some reason he decided to be a rebounding machine for his size last night. But Kyrie was not good last night. And that was great to see. And I'm glad the boos got to him. And I hope they continue to get to him. I hope he's rattled. I hope he stays rattled. I don't expect it. I feel like he's going to bounce back and probably go off the next game. But it's what he deserves. You get what you deserve. You reap what you sow. That's just what it is. So, at the end of the day, go Red Sox, go Patriots, go Bruins, go Celtics. I think the Celtics are done. It is what it is. Like I said, I believe the Nets and Lakers are going to be in the finals, and whoever wins that, it is what it is. The Lakers are up 2-1 on the Suns anyways now, so it looks like I'm probably going to be right about that, but who knows? And meanwhile, the Clippers are just completely laying an egg up until last night against the Mavs, so I don't know. I just don't appreciate Kyrie saying what he said. It was not the right. It was tone deaf, honestly. It really was. And now the media had to make it such a really big deal, unfortunately. So that's all I really have on all of this, the four major sports for here in Boston. And I should be back in the studio sometime next week for another video to come out. Like I said, if something comes up, I will make another video like this probably. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate the support, as always. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next time.